Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Slinger, and I'm a principal in the healthcare practice here at SVA Certified Public Accountants. I'd like to welcome you to part one of our vet webinar series. Today's topic is Unleashing Veterinary Practice Accounting Excellence. We're excited to bring another year of interesting topics and encourage you to sign up for the other webinars in the series. I'll have more information on those at the end. Now, before we get started, I just want to take a couple minutes and say a few words about SVA and our history with working with veterinarians. Like many of you, we got to where we are by being independent, and our vision moving forward is to remain that way and continue serving the same clientele we have since 1974. And a huge part of that client base over these last almost 50 years now has been within our healthcare practice, which includes medical, dental, and of course, veterinary practices. Our mindset is that when you're a practice owner or a part owner, you should work with someone who's more than just an accountant or a tax preparer. You need someone who becomes a true trusted advisor and works collaboratively with you as you grow through your career. This webinar and others like it are just one small way in which we do that. As far as this webinar goes, please feel free to send in questions you may have that come up as we go, but we'll wait until the end to answer them. If you're a client and your question doesn't get answered, we'd encourage you to reach out to your SVA contact. If you're not a client and have questions, please reach out to me, my co-presenter Joel, or someone on our team, and we'll make sure one of our subject matter experts gets your questions answered. Okay. As I mentioned, my name is Andy Slinger. I've been leading our work with veterinary practice groups for several years now. I'm joined today by my colleague, Joel Recklich, who's a senior manager in our healthcare practice. And he works with practice owners and practice managers on all kinds of different strategies, including efficiency, profitability, and growth strategies. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. I always like to know where we're going, so this is the plan for today. Like to start by giving you an update on what we're seeing. We have a very unique perspective in the fact that we talk to our clients every day, and they're veterinary owners that are going through the same things you are. We also talk to prospects. We have a relationship with the WVMA and their membership, so we get to attend events, talk to them, hear what's going on. And last but not least, in the last few years, we've also been talking to students because I like to see what's coming through the next generation, what are their thoughts and perspectives on the veterinary profession and what they see coming ahead. So we'll look at the trends as we see them really here now in the ninth month of the year. Then you might ask, well, why now? You know, some of these things have been going on for years now. So why is this the first of your webinar series? Why is this important now? So we'll hopefully address that and move you to a call to action. At that point, I'll hand it off to Joel, and he'll really get into the technical details of what's out there. You know, how do you make your accounting process, your bookkeeping process more efficient than it's ever been? And he'll also talk about payroll because they can work in tandem or separately, but ultimately they have to get into your same set of books. So he'll look at those options. And that part, I would say those two are kind of like, okay, if I want to do it inside, you know, if I want to copy the Home Depot slogan of you can do it, we can help, you know, if I want to do that, he'll take you through that, but then he'll send it back to me because maybe that's just not an option for you. Maybe you're done with bookkeeping, with accounting, with payroll, and you just want to hand it off to somebody else. So I'll take you through the whys and what that might look like for you. Okay, so let's start with trends. I know those of you that have listened to me before or watched or read articles, watched our webinars, I'm probably starting to sound like a broken record, but it truly still is a struggle for talent, okay? And still continues to be even more so in the rural areas. And a lot of times we've talked about the struggle to attract associates and retain associates and the mobility of associates. And we've also talked about techs and assistants and quality, reliable front desk people. But the focus today is really on the bookkeeping side, and who is doing that in your practice, in your organization. And it's not just a warm body, but in this case, it's someone who is qualified and it's someone that you can rely upon month after month and year after year. So that struggle is true. It's there. You're not alone if you're experiencing it. The other thing we keep seeing is a lack of timely, accurate, consistent reporting that you and your advisors can rely upon. Think about it. It seems like everything these days seems to take longer to get. The opposite should be true, right? Technology, automation, it should be making reporting quicker, more efficient, easier to obtain. We still see the opposite in many cases. Do you know your numbers? Do you really know how your practice is doing? How often do you see them? And when you see them, how old is the information? So again, we're still seeing challenges out there. The third one, owners doing their own bookkeeping. And both camps here are surprised when they hear this. And I would say it's almost 50-50. To the 50% of you that are doing your own bookkeeping, when you hear that, you're like, oh, I'm not alone. There are a lot of owners doing it. But then on the other 50%, if you're not doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe there's still 50% doing it themselves. Okay. So it's almost split right down the middle with our clientele. And again, we're going to talk about maybe that's always worked, but is that still the best for you as you move forward and try to achieve your personal and your professional goals? A lot of times it makes sense early, right? As you buy or as you build that practice from scratch, but you've got record growth right now. You've got record demands on your personal time. Does it still make sense? Inefficient, outdated processes, okay? When we're stressed, when there's no time, okay, what do? We resort to just doing things the way we've always done them. There's no time for change. That's going to take a lot of effort. And so we're still seeing that, okay? What do we say? Maybe next year. We're seeing a lot of that still. Maybe next year. Maybe I'll change it next year. The good news in tandem with all of this is that as you feel these pain points, more and more we're seeing good technology that's really tailored to small business. It's really automated the payroll and the bookkeeping process. And it almost feels like we're just scratching the surface. It's a really good time to consider it because if you turn on any the internet or the TV, you've heard about AI more than ever here this year in 2023, and you're going to keep hearing about it. So I think it's a great time for technology in this area, and I think AI, artificial intelligence, is going to take it even to the next level. Okay, so that's the high level, what we're seeing, and really why we're here today. So the question then is, why now? Why should all of this be important to me now? Why are we feeling those pain points? Well, first and foremost, there's a real need to know your numbers more than ever. We get calls every week. What's my practice worth? And once I find that out, what can I do? What are the low-hanging fruits to most effectively increase that value so I can get what I want sooner or later? You need timely and organized information to share, okay? You need to be willing to share that information to potential buyers. And so again, the better, the cleaner the information is, the more confidence in your practice, more than likely, the better results you're going to have. Associates are hard to find, okay? And those that are hard enough to find them, but then it's even harder to find those that want to buy into your practice or someday participate in your succession plan of maybe taking over and buying your entire practice. A lot of ways to scare associates away these days, isn't there? Don't scare them away with a bad accounting, payroll process, bookkeeping process, or with information that they don't feel comfortable relying upon, okay? It used to be, you know what, I'll just get all of my information to my local professional at the end of the year and we'll figure it out. And maybe my tax returns go on extension. And so really like September of the next year, I'm finding out kind of how the previous year shook out. And oh, by the way, now I'm into September. And if I'm going to set goals, I'm already 9 months into that next year. You can see how it's always reactive instead of proactive. For many years that you got away with that. But things have changed. Those days are gone. Again, you have record revenue, you have record profits. Guess what? You're paying record taxes. More and more, you're paying record taxes. So if you want to pay less taxes, you can't be reactive. You have to be proactive. And you have to have good books that you can rely upon, and you need to review those at least 3 to 4 times a year so you can make the necessary decisions in your practice. You're operating at capacity. You're already doing drop-off. You're already leveraging your staff as much as you can. Maybe you've expanded your hours. Maybe you've expanded services. Maybe you've hung up the "we're not taking new patients" sign. You're full. You're at capacity. So again, limited resources. I keep saying, what can you outsource? We've talked about other things. Now it's okay. It's your entire financial area of your practice or pieces of it. Can I either make it more efficient, or is it time to just let someone else do it? Demands on your personal time. Okay. I keep hearing burnout, burnout, burnout. There seems to be a shrinking amount of quality personal time. Maybe it's time for a change in how you've always done things to, again, free up time for those things that you've put off for years now. And lastly, to call you to maybe considering a change in what you do, increasing costs, decreasing staff. So bookkeepers, quality ones, if you can find them in the first place, more expensive than ever, right? Also, very hard to find. Okay, so you put those two together, and you're really seeing that a lot of practices are like, okay, this isn't working. We got to make a change here going into 2024. All right. So this gives you a really high level idea of why we're here, what's going on in the market. Now, Joel, I'm going to hand it off. He's going to take you kind of into the technical specifics of what options are out there for you. Take it away, Joel.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon, everyone. So let's talk about your different accounting software options. There are many. We have Sage 50, we have Intact, Xero, FreshBooks, but today we will discuss QuickBooks because it's the most common and it's the best overall product. There's a few different versions. We have the desktop version hosted in the cloud, and the online version. The desktop version is great, but it has limitations. You have to make backups at year end to send your accountant. You need to make adjusting journal entries to make sure you're matching your QuickBooks file to the file tax return. The cloud version is a little better. Your accountant gets access to it, but you still need the software installed on your computer. The version that we recommend is QuickBooks Online. This allows you to access QuickBooks from any computer, and they even have an app that you can use on your mobile phone. You can give your accountant access, which eliminates the need to create backups or make adjusting journal entries. Now we will discuss some key topics. So the number one thing that you need to do is you need to make sure your bank and credit card activity is being imported into QuickBooks. This allows you to go into the banking section and add transactions. By adding the transactions, it's automatically recording the information in QuickBooks, as well as it's clearing that before you even start your bank reconciliation. And then the next thing is setting up of rules. The best rule that I can give you is anything that's a deposit is going to be coded as a professional receipt. That's going to be right 99% of the time. You might have that occasional insurance refund or personal contribution that you're making that you'd have to double check on. The other things you can do is you can set up rules for, let's just say, anything that says Office Depot, I want that to be categorized as office supplies. So anytime an ACH transaction comes through, it will see the Office Depot, automatically record, automatically clear on the bank rec. Now, QuickBooks is very intuitive. So if it's starting to see the same transaction description 3 or 4 times that you're coding to the same expense account every time, QuickBooks will ask you, hey, do I want to set up this rule? And 99% of the time, the answer is yes. So then when you start to go to doing your bank reconciliation, a task that could have taken you a couple hours in the past legitimately takes you a couple minutes. All you need to do is enter the date, ending balance, and then just go through the activity. and the balance should be zero as soon as you start. Next, we're looking at, payroll data. It can also be imported. It can be internally by using QuickBooks, or externally, we would recommend Paychex. They actually have a GL integration where when you process the payroll, it automatically gets pulled into QuickBooks. We'll discuss that more in a little while. Next, you can create reoccurring and memorized transactions. You can do this for feasibly payroll, depreciation, amortization. You could have month-end reminders for adjustments to cost of goods sold to make sure your books are accurate each and every month. Lastly, you can categorize vendors and customers to specific GL accounts. So when you're setting them up, you can say that you want it to go to a specific account. So every time you write a check, it's already telling you which account it's going to. This is also another great time saver. Now let's look at your current process. Is your current process working? How much time are you spending? Is it efficient time? Is there a cost benefit here for you? Is the quality and usefulness of the end product good? Are you making that, month-end cost of goods sold adjustment to make sure your information is accurate? You also want to make sure your chart accounts are set up very well. So you're not essentially, when you add account in QuickBooks, I often see, let's just say, a rent account that's being set up as a current asset, which is just going to give you bad data. So you got to make sure those are set up correctly. And then we're also trying to avoid duplication with practice management software. QuickBooks is not meant for you to enter every single transaction that you have. QuickBooks is meant to do more higher end items like your credit card deposits, checking, cash deposits, and maybe other deposits. And I'd recommend maybe once a week, just doubling through to make sure the cash and checks are being deposited on a timely basis. A lot of people ask, hey, is my data safe? On the desktop version, you're not even accessing the internet. So yes, your data is safe. On the cloud versions, you're essentially going to get a dual authorization if you're trying to access from another computer. And if that's the case, it's going to, authorization code is going to be sent to your phone or email, which safeguards this information. Next, we're thinking, hey, staff and resources involved. Are the right seats on the bus? Like Andy said, who's entering the information? We a lot of times hear that it's the veterinarian owner. A lot of times we hear it's the practice manager. But, could you consider internal promotions, shifting maybe a very competent receptionist staff person to also assist with cutting checks? The great thing with QuickBooks is that you could set it up for limited access. So your employees can't actually see your financial information. They could just assist with entering and writing checks. Another thing is we're hearing a lot of practices being at full capacity at every level. So maybe outsourcing your accounting would be the right fit to maximize your income and profits. Now let's look at potential benefits. By automating the bank and credit card activity, setting up banking rules, also having as many payments as possible on auto pay, you're really minimizing the number of checks you write and the time you're spending entering your information into QuickBooks. This saves you a ton of time. This will lead to better, timely data for making decisions, having a better understanding of benchmarking and your practice profitability, have more time to see patients and increase staff efficiencies. Like we said, we want you to have proactive tax planning, not reactive. Now let's talk about payroll. People are wondering, do you want internal or external payroll? We don't have a big preference one way or the other. We just want to make sure you're happy with your current payroll provider. Common things that we see are payroll is too time consuming. It's confusing, complicated, technical. I don't want to deal with quarterly year-end reporting. Maybe I got a tax notice from the IRS or the state. Overall, all this relates to accuracy. These are just a few concerns that we see. Like I said, we want to make sure you're happy with your payroll provider. If you're not happy, you should consider switching to internally with QuickBooks. They have 3 different types of services: Core, Premium, and Elite. core is more basic, and you got to be comfortable with entering the employee info and deductions. Premiums a little better because it has an expert review your payroll setup. So there's a little, more of a guarantee. And then on the elite side, you actually get a personal HR advisor as well as tax penalty protection. I mean, overall, we're continuing to look for the ease of setup, entering and submitting a payroll, automatically entries into your accounting software. We want you to minimize your time, be able to file payments, quarterly and annual returns timely, avoid tax notices. Now, externally, we recommend Paychex. First off, they give you a specific customer service representative to assist you with the setup of your employees and deductions. I mean, they're set to your account. Anytime you have a problem, you give them a call, send them an email. They have great response time. They also have value-added services like 401k plan administration, HR assistance, and like I said before, the QuickBooks GL integration. So when you submit the payroll, the information automatically gets imported into QuickBooks Online. They will file your tax payments. They will file your quarterly and annual tax returns, as well as deal with any tax notices. There are many payroll services. And like I said, if you're happy, there's no need to switch. Overall, you need to pick one that works best for you. Now let's turn it back to Andy to discuss outsourcing your bookkeeping and or accounting services.
Thanks, Joel. A lot of information. That's a perfect lead-in. This is not a one-size-fits-all, okay? Some of you may be listening and say, all right, this validated that I've got a good process. Wonderful. No changes needed. Maybe there's just some tweaks. Maybe it's just payroll. Maybe it's just your bookkeeping process. Or some of you may be sitting there and saying, you know what, it's time to just turn this thing upside down. I'm ready, and I need to just take this out of my practice and give it to someone who I can rely upon, who's dependable, never have to worry about hiring or retaining a bookkeeper or figuring out the complexities of payroll. Now, I got to back up and say, even 4 years ago, I would not have ever envisioned that outsourcing everything for a vet practice would have been cost efficient, cost effective. No, it is an amazingly huge trend right now. There's a great demand for it. And quite frankly, just based on market conditions, I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So why is it happening? This is not an exhaustive list. Maybe your longtime bookkeeper is retiring. Turnover. You just can't find someone to stick, and you've tried so many options. You're frustrated. There's a lack of qualified candidates out there. You're done doing it yourself. You want that vacation. You want family time. You want to try that hobby that you've been putting off for years. The price is finally right for me. I can't afford it. I'm going to do it. Or all these things that Joel said are great. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to make all those internal changes. I would rather just hand it off to somebody. So if any of those or others are really sinking in and calling you to action, start with a cost-benefit analysis. I will tell you, automation has made outsourced accounting more affordable than ever. I didn't see it coming. Think about it. You outsource it. You no longer have that individual that you got to pay benefits to. You don't have to worry about turnover. Companies like ourselves and others have been around for 50 years, and they'll be around for another 50 years. You'll free up your personal time, or as I mentioned at the beginning, you'll free up clinical time if you want to, produce more revenue, right? Even move the needle more. It'll pay for itself, right? Maybe the person doing the bookkeeping, maybe you have a person, but you know what? I need someone to take charge of the front desk, or I need someone to manage another area of my practice. Shift the resources that you have at your disposal. Maybe the individual wants to try something new. We're finding that, right? People are looking for new opportunities, lifelong learning. Shift them. Create new lifelong learning opportunities for your very valuable staff that you have. As far as dependency, consistency, and accuracy, consider this, all right? Imagine that your bills are paid for you. Your bank statements are reconciled. All your information, credit cards, payroll, etc., are imported in one fell swoop and summarized on your behalf the same way every month. You get the reports back on the same day every month. They're accurate. They're formatted in the standard way in your industry. You can finally benchmark yourself against the industry and your peers for the first time. You can identify opportunities to be more efficient and more profitable. And now you have reports that are valuable to outside third parties, banks, potential buyers, current and future associates. You can now finally do proactive tax planning. You can make purchasing decisions timely. You can consider that expansion or that remodel that you and your staff are going to find very valuable. In the end, what's all this potentially going to do? It's going to save you time. Okay, put a price tag on that time. And it's going to potentially save you money or make you more money. Okay. All right. So we have presented a lot of information today at a very high level. And we always like to leave you with, okay, what do I do with all that information? What are the first next steps for me to consider? First of all, you spend so much time, effort, and energy working what we call in the business. Take some time to get out and work on the business. Okay, step back. Where have I come? Where do I want to go? Talk to your colleagues. Okay, what are they doing? Is it time for a change? So just do a deep evaluation of your practice with a fresh perspective. We start every meeting. We ask clients, what's working, what's not working, or what could be better? And if something's not working, it's usually in one of three areas: your people, your process, or the technology you're using. So again, what we talked about, it could be all three, it could be two, it could be one. But which one of those areas are most holding you back? And what changes, what pain points need to be addressed that will most move the needle and take your practice where you want to take it? Involve your trusted advisors. If you don't have one, build a relationship with one, okay? Be open, be receptive to feedback, to constructive criticism, ask their opinion. How do you get to where you want to go? Okay, involve those people. And don't just consider the short term. A lot of times, like, wow, what can I do now? Well, yeah, you can do it now, but what's it going to do for you a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? What's ahead for you? Don't be reactive, start being proactive. Set yourself up for success and to maximize the value you receive someday down the road for your practice. Okay. Looks like we have time for a question or two. Let's see if anything has come in here. Okay. All right, here's one. I have QuickBooks Desktop. Is it hard to convert to the online version? And how long does it take? All right, that one's technical. So Joel, can you take that one? I'll repeat it. I have QuickBooks Desktop. Is it hard to convert to the online version, and how long might it take?
Okay, yeah, this one you'd be fairly surprised. If you're in your desktop version, there's an option to convert it to QuickBooks Online instantly, pretty much. It might take maybe a full business day for it to be completed. You'll get sent an email when everything is done. Recommend just making sure the balance is at year end or last time you reconciled matched. But in reality, it's something that anybody can do fairly easily.
Thanks, Joel. Okay, let's do one more. And this one I'll summarize. We have someone asking what it typically costs to basically take your payroll and hand it off to QuickBooks or to Paychex. I'm going to just give you a very general, it depends, okay? Naturally depends on the number of staff in your practice, how often you're issuing payroll, the reporting requirements, etc. So what I will tell you is both of these organizations and others, they have a checklist, right? They're going to interview you, and very quickly, they're going to give you an estimate of the various options that you have. So I encourage you, if that's something that you're interested in, to reach out, and you'll get a very accurate estimate pretty quickly. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up. I want to let you know that you can go to sva.com/vetseries to sign up for the other webinars in the series that are listed here. And you can also find news and information that may affect your business, especially as we get closer and closer to year end. Our next webinar is scheduled for October 19th. And that topic is drive practice growth with the top KPIs you need to track, KPIs being key performance indicators. And then also make sure to get on the calendar for November 16th. That's when we're going to review our highly anticipated results of the second annual vet salary and benefits survey. I found out we doubled the participation from a year ago. So we're really looking forward to seeing that data and what has transpired over the last year. Last but not least, I want to remind you that the SVA team is only a phone call or an email away. So if you're a client, reach out to your SVA professional as questions arise. If you're not currently an SVA client, contact myself, contact Joel. You know, as I said, we just like to talk to you. We want to see what's going on. So whether it's a phone call, an email, or we see you at an outside event or a WVMA event, we'd love the chance to meet you if we haven't already. Thank you so much for attending today. Hope to see you all at our next webinars. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.